My friends, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed. And my friends, I think we need to have a discussion. And I saw a story on X and it really prompted me to do this show today. I've been thinking about doing this show for some time, but I think now is the time. Now's the time that I need to do it. Now the time has come for me to finally make this podcast so that we as men and ladies, if you're listening to the show today, I'd love for you to sound off. I'd love for you to say what you think about this topic, but I mainly want to address the men in the audience because today we're going to discuss the story that got me to think about why I'm going to do this show today, and then I'm going to tie in the story that was triggered from this initial comment that I saw on X. So, what prompted this show today, which I'm going to entitle "Monsters Are Not Created, They Are Made." The reason I use that phrase is it's a novel phrase. I understand that it's overused in fiction, but many people don't know where that story really kind of comes from. And in my opinion, it comes from the story of Fenrir the wolf. Now, I'm not talking about the Marvel version of Fenrir, which was horrible, horribly done, absolutely disgustingly bad. I'm not talking about Thor Ragnarok in the Marvel movie where they have Fenrir be some dumb wolf that's used by um Hela, who's Thor's older sister. No, 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 no. No. I'm talking about the actual myth from the Vikings and even before the Vikings, in the Viking Age in 800 AD. Fenrir, the wolf, is a cautionary tale. And as you can imagine from what I just said, it stems from the monsters are not created, they are made. Now, before I go into the story of Fenrir himself, I want to go into the post that really got me talking about this story. And I commented on it. If you're not following me on X, I recommend you do, because I post on there every single day, multiple times. And what I posted was in response to this woman's post where she was talking about the not all men, because the story was about a so-called pro-grape club that was meeting in person. First of all, I don't understand why people are just outing themselves like this. Anyone who supports graping people, and if you can read between the lines, I don't want to really, I don't want to, get my show completely shut down because YouTube and all these other platforms have different rules of engagement. But what I will tell you is apparently there was this group in France that and on the internet who was supposedly supposed to meet up and they were pro graping women, minus the G. And this boxing club of women were going to show up to the meeting place. And then this woman posts in response to the story from this article stating that that men can't use the phrase "not all men" because it was these men and then that these men over here, and basically her post was about all men want to grape all women. And my response to this woman was this: I said, look up the story of Fenrir, as it serves as a cautionary tale of how monsters are created and how monsters are made and not created. Using the not all men argument as a dismissal and saying that basically all men it is all men and instead of the not all men, you're actually going to make more men like these monsters, these grapists or wannabe grapists, allegedly, as opposed to making men allies of yours. That's what I said. And I stand behind what I said. Because let's be real here, gentlemen. Let's be real. Let's do some basic math because arithmetic is important because numbers don't lie. Let's really get down to brass tacks. If let's flip the script and let's do something else for a second. Let's say that you woke up one day and everyone was convinced that you committed a violent crime, right? Now you didn't because you didn't do it. But Everybody is telling you, "Oh, you're a monster, you did it, you beat this person up, you did this, you did that." Everybody keeps telling you, "Oh, you're such a horrible piece of garbage because you did this," and you know you didn't do it. You know you're innocent. You know you're like, "Wait a minute, I never did this." But everybody around you is echoing, "Oh, you're a monster, you did this, you wanna do it again, this, that, and the other." And you hear that every day. What are you more likely to do? Are you more likely to keep trying to be a good person? Or are you more likely to be like, "You know what? F this. I'm gonna go do I'm gonna be what everybody thinks I already am, because 'cause they're gonna treat me like it whether I am or not. So I might as well actually embrace it." What are you more likely to do? Now, it wouldn't happen today. Might not even happen tomorrow. But at some point, you're gonna ask that question of, "Wait a minute, if I'm the bad guy, whether I actually act like one or not, why not just be the bad guy?" That is the story of Fenrir, the wolf. Now many of you maybe know a little bit about Norse mythology. Some of you might have read about Thor, or you might see the Marvel movies from Disney, but you don't know who Fenrir the wolf actually was. And by actually was, I mean like the myth itself. I don't think he actually existed. He's a myth, a cautionary tale, as it were. Fenrir is the son of Loki. Loki being the trickster god of Asgard. His siblings were Jormungand, the serpent who had circled Midgard, and Hel, the woman who controlled the underworld. Now Fenrir himself was raised on Asgard. He was not evil. He was not mean. He was just a supernatural wolf who was raised amongst the Aesir, meaning Odin, Thor, the gods of Asgard. But as he grew, the gods became wary of him, and there was a prophecy that Fenrir would be the one to end Odin. So what they did was they took this wolf who had no desire to hurt any of them. Now keep in mind, he wasn't hurting anybody. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He just wanted to be accepted. He just wanted to be accepted amongst the gods of Asgard. They started to play a game with him where they would chain him and hoping that it would hold him and he couldn't escape. But every time he would break the chains because he got bigger and stronger as time went on, they acted like, "Oh yeah, we were just playing a game with you. Good job, you made it out." They were treating him like he was an animal, like he was a beast, something to be scared of, when he had done nothing. All that had happened was other people had said he was a monster. Other people became wary of him because he was bigger and stronger, and they saw him as a threat, even though he had done nothing to threaten them. Sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to you? People see you as a threat. They see you as something that could hurt. You see, this is where and I'll finish the story. Believe me, I will finish the story. But to me, this is where we intersect with society and why weakness is celebrated and strength is seen as subpar and dangerous. A rabbit is not more virtuous than a wolf. The rabbit can't hurt anybody. The rabbit's harmless. So it takes no virtue for the rabbit to not hurt someone because he can't. Now, a wolf, on the other hand, has big sharp teeth, big sharp claws, and it can hurt people. In the same way, you take people who maybe get really good at using guns, they're really well trained, they're really good with knives, whatever it might be, really good hand to hand combat, you name it, whatever, you name it. These people have more virtue than the schmuck liberal schlemiel who couldn't hurt anybody even if they wanted to. Just because you can't hurt someone does not make you more virtuous than somebody who can and chooses not to. That takes virtue. That takes character. If you can't do something, that's like saying, "I'm more virtuous than the guy who, because I don't take cocaine and the other guy takes cocaine." Well, if we both had cocaine and he took it and I didn't, That's virtuous because now we both have access, and I made the choice to have restraint. In the same way that you are only as virtuous as what you have the power to not do. As in, you could, but you don't. That takes character. Not, I can't anyway, even if I wanted to. In the same way that's where we get into the conversation of why being a virgin is virtuous for women and not so much for men. It's virtuous for Chad, but not for the guy the goofy, cornball who couldn't get laid if he wanted to. That's not virtuous. That just take kitty character. Versus Chad, Mr. I got big muscles and I got money and I got all this going on for me. He chooses not to. That's character. That is virtuous. That is why it's virtuous for women to be virgins, because women can have sex as much as they want. But if they choose not to, they choose not to exercise that power, that is virtuous. Now, let's go back to Fenrir real quick. Let's go back to Fenrir real fast. Fenrir was being chained, and he kept breaking the chains. And over time, he started to realize, wait a minute, they don't see me as one of them. They see no one else is going through this. They see me as a threat. They see me as something to be feared. So what the gods did, as they realized they couldn't chain him up, was they went to the land of the dwarves, to Svartalheim. Svartalheim was the home of the dwarves, the greatest craftsmen in the 9 worlds. They asked the dwarves to create them a chain that could hold Fenrir. And after the dwarves did exactly what the gods asked them to do, just like they had before, they challenged Fenrir and they said, hey, we have a new chain. Let's see if you can break free. Now, Fenrir, being a supernatural entity, does what like the other gods, he looked at the chain and he saw, wait a minute, this is lighter than the chains you've had me break before, and he sensed trickery. So, despite knowing that it was likely a trap, he wanted to prove to the gods that he was one of them and that he could trust them and that they could trust him. He said, you know what? I will put that chain. I will allow you to chain me, but, and here's the but. One of you has to put your hand in my jaws as a show of good faith that you're not trying to hurt me and that this is a game and in fact not a trap. And you know what the telling sign was? None of the gods wanted to put their hand in his jaws, knowing what they were about to do and knowing they were going to lose their hand. Except for one. Tyr, son of Odin, said, I will put my hand in your jaws. And Tyr did, and once they shackled Fenrir with the chain the dwarves had given them, once he realized he couldn't escape, and that the dwarves had crafted the chain and he couldn't escape, he bit down and he swallowed Tyr's hand. The gods took Fenrir with the chains they had bound him with, and they bound him to a boulder and put a sword in his jaw so he could no longer close his mouth, and he could not escape, effectively making him a monster who hated them when he had no desire to do so. Never wanted to hurt them, never wanted to be anything but one of them. You might ask me, Austin, why is that important? Oh, because the story's not done yet. When Ragnarok comes, at least according to the traditional storytellings of the Norse people, once Ragnarok happens, Fenrir will be free, and he will have his revenge. And he does have his revenge. He eventually does kill Odin. And his 2 sons swallow the sun and the moon. You might ask me, Austin, I get the story. It's nice. It's cute. But what does it have to do with the story you told about the men and the woman saying that all men basically want to grape women? Oh, well, it's very simple. The answer is that is exactly the cautionary tale that a lot of men see in their own lives today. We are being labeled as perverts, problems, and grapists, and that we only want to hurt women and all these things. And what women I don't think realize, and gentlemen, echo in the comments if you have had the same thought, if you've realized that this is happening to us, you let me know when you discovered it and how it's affected your life. Ladies, if you're listening, I hope you learned something because this is exactly the problem. In the same way that the communists and the socialists and the left wingers in America are making the right wing more right wing by bastardizing us, castigating us, and labeling us things we are not, effectively creating the very thing that they fear. Women are doing the same thing to men, especially in the Western world. They are making us, and they are casting us as the villain, and then being surprised that some of the weaker links amongst us are acting like them. Now, I'm not telling the women that they are the problem inherently. It's the rhetoric that's the issue. It's understanding that they think they're warning people, they think they're doing the right thing. No. No, you're not. In fact, all you're doing is making the men who would protect you, you are turning the knights who would protect you, for lack of a better analogy, into the banditos. You are turning them into the dark knights. Because whether they do the right thing or not, they will be told they are the problem. Whether they do what's right or not, it doesn't matter. They are being treated the way the Fenrir was being treated, as a monster, something to be feared. And you need to stop it. Because if you don't, we will see more of these monsters amongst us, not less. We will see more men become like these monsters who support raping women than those who would oppose it. You will see you will see the very shift that you fear. Because instead of rewarding good behavior, you are saying that we are all the same. We are all like these monsters. And the only thing you will do with rhetoric like that is create more monsters, not less. Instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? These men over here, this behavior is a problem. They need to be more like these good men over here. They need to be more like these men, and we're going to actually reward these men." Instead of rewarding Pookie and these scumbags and these criminals and these gangsters with vagina, with lording them as these cool and hip guys, we're going to stop doing that. I guarantee you it won't happen, but I'm going to pretend for a second that they're actually capable of it. This is what will cause the shift that you actually want. What you want are men like me who ride the wall. We're the middle. We understand the world for what it is, but at the same time, we're not super nice simps, but we're not villains. We're anti-heroes. That's what we need more of. But most men are not capable of it because they don't have the capacity to accept the world for what it is and then make their own life out of what they see with their own eyes. That takes serious skill and that takes discipline. That's hard. But ladies, if you're listening to the show and you haven't hung up already because I'm not talking about things that interest you, gentlemen, echo in the comments. Make your own video reacting to this one to let me know if I'm out of line or if I'm right on the money. Because I know I'm right on the money with this. But ladies, if you're listening to the show and you made it this far, you need to understand that you have tremendous power over men. Now, do you have the power? No. No. Do you have power? Yes. And as men, we want your validation to an extent. Not all the way, but definitely some of it. And so when we see you rewarding these men, we see you saying that, oh, you know what, you're a monster, whatever you do, regardless of what, because you were born with a penis that you didn't ask for. All that does is make men worse. All that does is make guys say, you know what? Why would I try being a good man? Why would I try being a decent person if I see all these bad dudes get rewarded while you talk about how bad they are and yet reward them? And I'm going to be seen as this evil patriarchal piece of garbage anyway. So all I'm going to do is what I want to do, and that's probably going to be the worst instinct I have. You need to understand that that's what's happening out here in this dating marketplace. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter. That's what's happening. And it's up to you to do something about it. That's your choice. I mean, tell me, you could say you don't like how I've said what I've said today, but you can't argue with anything that I've said. And if you want to try, go ahead. If I understand that this is not an emotional show. This was a very facts-based, story-based, allegorical analysis of what we see in the dating marketplace today. My friends, you let me know, gents, if you related to this, if this struck a chord in your soul, please let me know. I think it did. I can sense it from here. Ladies, if this affected you, you let me know. Till next time, I'm out of here. Peace.